History of Rolex watches. A top choice of the world's richest people, an example of fashion. Even Arab princes who want to buy a Rolex watch have to wait 3 to 4 years after placing an order for a Rolex watch. Because these watches are made in very limited numbers, despite being worth thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. This was no ordinary journey for the quality of Rolex watches that have been around for over a century. Rather, what did the makers of this watch have to do to reach this point today? Through this video of InfoVision TV today, we will tell you the interesting story of this journey. In order to measure the time, man once made a sundial which tells the time during the day with the help of sunlight, and sometimes make hourglass and water clock. But the biggest constraint of all these things was that man could not carry them around all the time. This was the reason why a man named Hans Wilsdorf thought of making a watch that was so small that it could be worn comfortably on the wrist. In 1905, at the age of just 24, Hans Wilsdorf was working in a timepiece manufacturing company. While making clocks, he began to dream of a watch that people could wear on their wrists. And who can tell the exact time from the heights of the sky to the depths of the earth? To fulfill this dream of his, Hans started to make such changes in clocks and timepieces, by which its size can be made smaller, and it is not only small but also reliable. At that time, Alfred Davis decided to make an investment to fulfill this dream of Hans. Together, they founded a company which was named as Wilsdorf and Davis. But after much thought, Rolex was given as such a big name was not suitable for marketing. In the 20th century, wristwatch maker Hans Wilsdorf was unaware of the fact that the Rolex brand he created would be regarded as a guarantee of power and success in the coming century. In 1910, the first Rolex watch was awarded the Swiss Certificate of Chronometric Precision. In 1920, Rolex watches were registered in Geneva under the name Montres Rolex. The reason for the fame of Rolex watches in the world was not only their wristwatch, rather, it was the changes made in it over time that made it the most important necessity of every era. In 1926, the Rolex company introduced a new watch called the Oyster. The most important feature of this watch was to be the world's first waterproof watch. For the success of this watch, in 1927, this company challenged the famous swimmer Mercedes Gleitze to swim across the English Channel wearing a Rolex Oyster watch. The Mercedes Gleitze passed the challenge in 10 hours without a single drop of water entering the Oyster, which was an important proof of the watch's waterproofness. Rolex watches are not only waterproof, but also excel in their quality and performance from the top of Mount Everest to the fastest racing car. Sir Malcolm Campbell, the fastest driver of that time, also acknowledged in a letter that Rolex is a watch that can work well in all kinds of conditions. The series of new reforms increased over time, and with each new day, Rolex continued to make additions that further enhanced its uniqueness. In 1945, Rolex introduced an automatic rotating chronometer that displayed the date as well as the time. Along with this, Rolex watchmakers started making watches according to the needs of every profession which could help them in their profession, along with telling time. In 1955, for the first time, Rolex introduced another watch called the GMT-Master. The feature of this watch was that it also told about the direction. Due to its quality, many airline companies started using it. Besides, these watches also told the time difference between different parts of the world. To match the status of the richest people in the world, Rolex began to make watches made of gold and platinum for certain people, which were very expensive and could be used to track the date and day. Generally, in the manufacture of wristwatches, such metals were used which stopped working in the magnetic field or started telling wrong time, due to which the scientists had to face a lot of problems. For this reason, in 1956, the makers of Rolex designed a watch called Milgauss this time, which were made of ferromagnetic alloy which had the ability to tell the most accurate time even in magnetic field. In 1957, the company that manufactures Rolex watches started making such beautiful watches for female customers, which did not only tell the time, but these gold-colored watches were also used as beautiful jewelry and were the first choice of rich women. The makers of Rolex watches have not only been striving for their own development, but after 50 years of Oyster, in 1976, this company started the Rolex Award of Enterprise for companies that bring new ideas around the world. Today, there is no person who is not familiar with the name Rolex. This Swiss company is the most famous company in the world, and the first choice of the most famous people in the world. These watches are considered to be the most expensive watches of today, and the best feature is that every watch made by this company is made by hand. To make these watches made of real gold and platinum become women's choice, they are also decorated with precious stones and diamonds in the form of bracelets, due to which their price has become beyond the purchasing power of the common man. And it has been restricted to only the richest people. The price of a Rolex watch has reached several $1,000s. Because of the demand of Rolex, there are also fake Rolex watches for sale in the market. Rolex watches currently hold the honor of making the most expensive and best watches in the world, but they have earned this honor through hard work, in which changing themselves with the changing times is their greatest characteristic. Knowing this history full of logic of Rolex watches will surely increase your knowledge. Subscribe to our channel now to watch the videos of InfoVision TV removing the curtains from the curtains of history. And if you like the video, like and share it now.